Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. All right, stepping out. It's warm. It's a warm day, man. Don't really know what I want to talk about, man, but just want to tell you guys I'm doing pretty good, having a good day. Did my laundry this morning. It's got to be about 85 degrees, 84, something like that, in that range. Just attempting to get a little air, even though it's much cooler in the room with the air conditioning. These are the times where you're really happy to have air conditioning in the room. Definitely a luxury I can appreciate these last couple of days when it's starting to warm up. But I just felt like getting out the house. I didn't really have any idea what I wanted to do. Didn't have too much on my mind. I got a few things that I can get for myself as far as like lotion and stuff like that, but trying to just manage my my mental health, of course. It's positive, being as positive as possible, being prayerful. I've been wanting to smoke weed, still haven't bought any. Still trying to win those battles from day to day. To be honest with you, that's really what it is. Been thinking about that a lot. I've been seeing a lot of weed on my Twitter for whatever reason. I've been seeing a lot of marijuana strands popping up for no damn reason. I don't know what the hell that is, but as you guys know, I'm a natural weed guy, but haven't had any probably in over a year. Well, not really, probably close to it, probably as long as I've been on this side of town. So about almost a year now. It's one of those situations where I'm still battling that. I don't necessarily want to not smoke. I'm just trying to be responsible in not smoking, and that's a tough thing. But there are pros and cons and all of that. So I've talked to you guys about that. I've just been struggling with that off and on for the last 3 months, really, and have been winning those battles each day, as I call them, battles. So I don't know, man. I'm just chilling. I did some good art today. Had about 7 pieces done after taking a day off yesterday on that, and felt like those were more than decent pieces. So, of course, I did my NBA Finals prediction video last night around midnight, which was unexpected. I didn't expect to actually do it at that point. I was doing a little homework, but I figured I'd get up today and do it. But I just decided to get it done while I was thinking about it, while the information was fresh in my head. So no regrets there. Hope everybody enjoys that video. It's pretty long, but I try to be as thorough as possible. And then I start feeling good about that because as I was listening to a bunch of different content today, I was hearing things I was referencing on some of the more professional experts. Guys like Coach JJ Redick were talking about certain things in regards to how he saw this matchup that I had mentioned, that I had just seen in my mind's eye. So my confidence that I know this game is pretty high. I'm not great with lingo, but when it comes to just the rhythm of the game and just the overall game itself, I've thrown a lot of hours into it in different ways. So I don't think I'm novice when it comes to this sport or at the speed of the game that they play in the NBA. So, that was a big confidence booster. I'm like, yo, that's what I said. That's what I think is going to happen. So that kind of stuff was what I was hearing off and on as I was listening to different people talk about this NBA Finals matchup and the prediction. I heard a couple people who are really good at what they do predict the exact same thing for the finals as I did. And I thought I was taking a left field approach, to be honest with you. I'm not going to say I wasn't confident in what I've chosen, and it can certainly go against all of what we said, myself and those others who picked like me, but I wasn't expecting to see as many people see it the way I do. So we'll see how it ages. Some of my predictions aged pretty well, others aged horribly. The Eastern Conference Finals aged horribly. And so, I'm not a fool. All of us in this basketball space can be wrong. That goes without saying, but yeah, man, that's what I'm thinking on that front. As far as everything else, paying attention to what's going on in Gaza as usual. The resistance is strong, and you see footage today of people in Israel storming a mosque, and just listening to them jump around and do what they do. And I just say to myself that I'm just frustrated with the idea that they are so lopsided as it pertains to how they support the killing of innocent people just because of their race or just because of their God knows what. God knows what, really. I don't know why they would support killing people. It's almost like they feel themselves to be victims when they're the ones that have taken and stolen and all of that. And then the victim idea or ideology has made it so that they're aggressive against people that they've actually hurt. So I guess that's what is required, to be as evil as they are, is to first have to convince yourself and others that it makes some sense. Otherwise, you're not going to be that bad of a human being in the first place. So you got to have some delusion about something being wrong with being right, or some type of idea that's you have to strike first in order for you to even convince yourself that striking makes any sense. So, as I study what I see there, it's the basis of paranoia that makes them think that they need to be aggressive against people that they've only been aggressive toward. There's never been any look to be peaceful with these people. They came, they saw, they stole, and then they proceeded to resent them as if they had things stolen from them. So this is just pure evil, and it's a whole country of people that engage in what the rest of us look at as terroristic behavior. It's a terrorist state, Israel is, and they have a lot of control over a lot of things, because that's what derives from that paranoia, is the need to control. So they control a lot. They have a lot of money. A lot of people support them from all over the globe because they've colonized other places. Israel's just like the 7th, 8th place they've colonized in this way. So they made a lot of money along the way being this way. Zionists have it. It's just an evil ideology that is on a path to world domination or destruction. It's one or the other. So paying attention to just how off that is, and how they cover up each other's lies. Like, we're indigenous to this land, but won't take any blood tests to prove it. They change their names from whatever European name they had to whatever it is they decide they want people to think of them. So half of these people that run Israel, their names are fake. It's just sad, man. See how people have really taken the colonizer mentality and continue to press it forward to these generations right now. And you see the same stuff that was happening in this country 50 years ago happening there right now. You see the same thing that's been happening in this world in different places 400 years ago happening there right now. And it's just the same mentality, the same type of intentions that take from people and starve them out, and then tell yourself that they're the worst people in the world, tell others that they're the worst people in the world, and continue those bullying tactics and reinforcing that nonsense. And it's a shame that we have such an irresponsible set of people at the top of various governments that will reinforce the culture of allowing them to do what they do in the name of them being able to pay for such responsibility. It's as simple as you give these governments money and they will speak as if what you're saying is fine to say or do. They will reinforce your intentions and your ideologies, no matter really what they are. And that type of irresponsibility is what is running our country right now. It's running other countries as well into the ground, and allowing the IDF, who have colonizer mindsets and colonizer intentions, they're allowing them to continue to further dominate the world. And I just think there's something terribly, terribly wrong about that, to say the least. And we're seeing the results of what it looks like when the world wakes up to this being done and wanting it to stop. So I'm happy to be alive in this time, to be able to use my platform to continue to be one more voice against that. And I hope that others will do the same as they hear me speak and many others speak in the same way. That this is not okay. It's not okay to steal just because you've demanded of the world to allow you to do it. It's not okay to take you and your buddies and say the whole world needs to be us, and we're going to manipulate the world into being us by doing all of the things that you're not going to allow yourself to do because you're morally sound. That's kind of what they've done. Morals are parameters for the rest of us, but not for those who are willing to take over the world. They don't have morals, they have intentions. And the code that they follow allows for them to do whatever, however, forever. And as long as they have it measured out to where they can control what they want to control, they really don't have a problem with allowing others to stay within parameters that they don't hold for themselves. You will listen to us, do as we say, not as we do type ideologies. And it's allowing for some of the most crude and rude ways of living possible. And you see an entire country of people in Israel behaving like petulant children who have been overly spoiled and not held accountable. It's like a whole fleet of these individuals jumping around, making fun of people who are suffering, that they are also too making go through those sufferings. And then from there, somehow in the warped way of thinking, have convinced themselves that they are the ones who are being victimized, and they're the ones who need to be freed from something that really doesn't even add up. And it's like they use these talking points back and forth to one another and then refuse to use logic to talk themselves into holding one another accountable for anything better. And it's because they've been taught to believe that they are better than everyone else, so therefore that equates to them behaving in such a way that they wouldn't respect within anyone else. So it's just a whole country full of petulant children. That's what I see. Spoiled little brats that grew up to be humans, that are encouraged to be their worst and not encouraged to be their best in any way other than domination. You know, that's what they run for. Domination. That's what their lives are about. And they teach their children to mistreat individuals. Like, it's just, there's no real safe way to find a solution there. I think it's going to take a higher power to help us through this, in regards to identifying that this is really what's going on. And you know what I mean, that we haven't come as far as we'd like to think we've come. Maybe this country has in some ways, but the world itself, we still got a whole country full of people that really genuinely think they're better than everybody else, and have not only a right but a duty to mistreat people, and really not even mistreat them. Mistreatment is allowing them to live and suffering them. They're trying to wipe these people out. And so I don't know of a earthly way to find solutions in regards to that that is gonna bring any good to the earth. I think the only way that we know how to find solutions for stuff like that is turning us into the very essence that they are. So that's what I was praying about, is asking the Lord to help me use my voice in a way that doesn't further reinforce the same energy. You know, I hear people say, I hate this, I hate Israel, I hate this. And like, that's all the devil really wants you to do is hate. So if he can turn their bad treatment of people into you hating, however that hatred is pointed, then the devil's done his job. So if you understand the whole intention is for the world to be converted to more of what it is, and to look at yourself as a victim, and then from there look to promote violence and impose violence on others, and see only solution as wiping whole peoples out, then you just become more of what they are. You in fact in turn replace them. And so that's what you don't want, and that's what one of the functionalities of their existence is to convert, by way of their provocation, others into being what they are. Whether they're here to be that or not, you will replace them. And so that's what we don't want to become. But we also can't ignore or deny the fact that as long as we have these parameters of morality, they are able to in fact use those parameters to keep us in line, keep us from defending ourselves properly, keep us from seeing clearly, keep the world docile while they continue to behave as they do. So it's prayer that I think is going to be a real solution, not nothing else that we can really look at and say this is going to work. I don't know what's going to work. I don't find that I have the answer right now at all. But I do fight with the idea of becoming more of what it is that they are within myself. And the only thing I can think of that really works is asking God, before I asked him to do anything in regards to removing evil from others, is that he remove evil and hatred from me. That's what they're not learning to do. That's what effectively hasn't been prayed about in any way, shape, or form as it pertains to Israel. Is Israel praying that the evil be removed from their own hearts? Or have they been effectively taught how not to consider such things? Even if I believe myself to be a good person, I need to lead by example when I tell all of you that I'm praying every day that the Lord remove the evil from my own heart and the hatred from my own heart. Because even if I don't see any hatred there, it's not about what I perceive and see. And it's about the notion that there are people out there who will never question because they don't perceive and see any hatred in themselves. And the art of asking and believing that it can be removed is not something that should be limited to your perception of self, but that it should be done by everyone regardless. And so that's really what it is. I don't necessarily believe myself to be an evil person. I don't necessarily think I have hatred in my heart. But it's not about what I think or believe. It's about double checking, because I'm seeing people who are not double checking. I'm seeing that they think it's fine for them to live their lives holding everyone else accountable or believing themselves to be victims without actually looking inward or checking inward. They allow themselves to be completely fine with the idea that there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And because they don't see it, it ain't there. And as a result of it actually being there, despite them not seeing it, we suffer the ills of it. They get to say, I'm the end all be all. Because I'm the chosen, there's nothing wrong with me. And so whatever I do is going to be fine. And whatever you do, it's in the narrative of what it is that I got going on. And that is the problem. That they don't think there's nothing wrong with them. That they don't think that there's anything that should possibly be held accountable within them. And that because they are chosen, they don't need to be checked. Off the sheer notion that such individuals exist brings about the need for me to check myself, if for no other reason than to not be like them. So no, I never hit like on anything that says I hate Israel, or that we should hate Israel, or hate Israel button, or any of that. I'm never going to co-sign that, because I understand what we're dealing with from a spiritual standpoint and what the goal of the enemy, which powers them, actually is. It's not so that we feel better. It's so that we turn into more of what it is that they, of whom he has control over, are. He wants us to turn into more of them. Do you hate? Regardless of how you get to that point. Do you hate? Because if so, you're able to be effectively used by him to destroy self and others. That's really all he wants. That's really all Israel is alive to do. Is turn the rest of the world into violent, hateful, non-self-checking entities that ultimately destroy the world entirely. And so because I know that from a spiritual standpoint for which they exist and what their purpose is, and what I see when I see them jumping around and storming mosques, killing babies and making TikToks and make fun of people who are suffering the ills that they place upon them, I understand that the only win I truly have is to make sure that before I hold them accountable, I'm looking inward and asking God to hold me accountable. It's the only win you can get. Otherwise, you're taking your unchecked self and attempting to check that for which you perceive as a problem. And that is their problem that they force us to deal with. They take their unchecked selves and then try to hold everybody else accountable. And they believe propaganda, they believe a bunch of lies, they believe a bunch of stuff that's being told to them in a book that was written by devilish individuals. And because they're not intentional on checking for which they don't believe is necessary, they then are not protected from the reactions that come with engaging in the way that they do. If they can look inward and say, man, we really are provoking the whole world to want to destroy and torture us, maybe there's something wrong with what it is that we do. But they're effectively kept from ever doing that. And as a result, whatever's coming from them being this way is on the way. I'm going to protect me and mine from that by telling y'all how to do that. It's by not allowing yourself to ever think that you shouldn't be checked. Even if you don't feel like you have any hate in your heart. You're in a hateful world that's looking to provoke you into a hateful person. You got to check yourself every day. Affirmations, and we look in the mirror, a lot of people are taught to tell themselves positive things, which I definitely think are important. But if you're not saying that I want to remove what would otherwise be bad within me, or self-destructive or destructive in nature, then that's half the battle that you're not actually addressing. And I'm telling you, it don't matter what the propaganda is that you believe. It don't matter what evil you've been taught. If you're always asking something greater than yourself to teach you how and to effectively remove that for which is flawed within you, eventually what's flawed within you must come out. Your subconscious is going to see it at some point in time, so long as you're intentional on bringing it out. But if you don't believe it's there, it can hide in the shadows of your mind and continue to rear its ugly head as you address everything that you think is wrong with the world except for yourself. So if we're going to defeat Israel and the evil that powers it, it's going to first be us checking ourselves, especially if you don't think there's anything there or can't see anything there that's otherwise needed to be checked. Because best believe, they do not. And nobody needs to do that more than people who believe what colonizers believe. Nobody needs to ask a greater energy, a greater higher power to remove that for which makes them flawed than that of whom believes they can steal from others and still find themselves being victims somehow. And they can steal whole countries from people, slaughter people's kids, and then proceed to tell you that they are the ones that are in need of freeing. Nobody needs to check themselves more than them. Nobody needs God to come through and bless them with the gift of self-awareness than them. And that is exactly how we look at it if we're blessed with that. These people don't have a gift that you've been given, and that's the ability to reflect upon self in preparation for good things to be welcomed into your life. Not so that you'll be so paranoid as to think you must control everything, but that's so that you can be so faithful and trustworthy and instilling faith in a higher power that you can let go and let God take care of some of those things that Israel must control in order to survive, or so they believe. They don't want to ever be blamed. Why? Because blame leaves them in a position in their minds to be held accountable, and the way that they hold each other accountable doesn't exist. So that's a foreign fear. That's a foreign threat that they don't know what to do with. Holding me accountable, we don't never hold ourselves accountable. We live in the presence of our own lies, in a very comfortable space, in the presence of our own hypocrisy, in a very comfortable space. So the last thing I need you doing is blaming me, because if you blame me, that forces me to wonder if blaming me is something that should be done when we've all taught one another not to blame one another, only to move forward in our intentions of taking from others. But see, that's the Zionist way. That's white supremacy's way. Do they pose a threat to us? Can they effectively do something to us if we don't move forward? Okay, then we can't trust that there's a God that's going to keep us from falling. We can't trust that our good deeds are going to make it so that we earn the favor of that for which we fear, or not have anything to fear at all, and let that be clear. None of that. We must move forward, even if it means going outside of morality and forcing others to stay within the confines of morality to protect us, because God forbid we just don't do any of that and see what happens. God forbid we do a bunch of good around the world, leave ourselves with a good reputation, and see what happens. They can't do that. They won't allow themselves to. The enemy within them, that for which makes them as evil as they are, won't allow them to let go and let God. They got to be God just to be able to feel secure within their own skin. They can't even be their own selves. They got to pretend to be something they're not and go places that they can barely inhabit with their skin, just so that they can feel like they fit in. Not knowing it's the very essence of being that way that makes it so that they don't. It's the very essence of being that way that turns the world against them, that's making it so that people want to boycott them and whatever the heck. And we can't even celebrate them celebrating themselves, because every bit of their celebration is standing on the backs of others that they've hurt, that they've put through hell. And we're supposed to sit back and just let them be them, as they don't allow anyone to be themselves in their own lands. They want to take everything. Why? Because they must control it. It's a horrible, vicious cycle that continues to destroy the minds of the very people that inhabit it, that harbor this energy. They have to control. They have to lie. They have to keep the truth from one another and others. They have to look at themselves as better than everybody else. They have to destroy the next generation before they grow up and kill them. They have to protect themselves from imaginary threats that they actually manifest with that mentality. How many of you guys would actually need to do all of the things that Israel does when you have control over America's government? America's government? You got control over America's government and you still think you need to kill children to protect yourself? You have to be warped. It's deeply, deeply warped. To have the entire free world, the UN, and everybody behind you, and still you fear that for which isn't even strong enough to defeat you. That you have to be warped in your what it is that you deliberately believe. Your intentions from jump have to be messed up to have so much control of so much and yet want so badly to destroy something that can do nothing to you. Ask yourself this question, and I've said this before, this isn't a new thought. If the people they are harming are so poor, and they have so much control over their environment, why are they considered such a threat to these people? Why would they be such a threat to their survival if they have control over not only the government that they are inhabiting, but the control over the American government, the UK government? Aliens couldn't come down from Mars and land on this place without checking in with these people. And yet the people that they feel they most threatened by are children who won't be grown enough to hurt them for another 20 years at best. Make it make sense. They're targeting children because they're afraid they're going to grow up to be terrorists. When they have control over governments outside of the soil they're on. People are so caught up in the capitalism of it all that they're not checking. They got real smart individuals who are not checking to see if this is really something they should actually be capitulating to. An entire government of people are not asking the right questions. It's because they're warped by a certain evil. Evil is never going to protect itself, least of all who it inhabits. So what I tell you is, these are common sense questions if you're not warped by the own nature of your greed and your need for power and your fear. It ain't hard to tell that these people are not somebody you need to be taking dollars from. They're not somebody you need to be answering to. They're not people that you need to be considering allowed to run the earth anymore. Because they have control over so much, and yet they are attacking the poor. Hezbollah and entities such as that. That's who they want to hurt. Palestinians, who they've had control over for 75 years. That's who they must remove from the earth in order for them to inhabit land properly. They can't inhabit that land without wiping them people out, but they control governments all over the world. And they've convinced themselves this is what the case is. They've convinced one another that this is what the case is. They've let something that they've read that is older than dirt itself tell them that this makes any sense at all. When you have control, you got the means to do many things, and you choose violence against children? If that isn't a self-destructive intention, I don't know what is. They have the control and the power to fund an entire movement to Mars if they wanted to. They could take all of their people and raise them up into the sky with all the money that they're able to derive from these various countries that they control. And the one thing they want to do is destroy children. And we're going to make sense of that? We're going to let these people control the earth? You telling me your government is not smart enough to realize that those aren't the dollars you should be taking? That those aren't the people you should be being a microphone for? You got to be warped by something very, very evil, friend, in order to allow yourself to think that these are people you need to be taking a buck from. You got to be warped. It don't make no sense at all. This is who runs the earth? And they trying to wipe out who so that they can get what? And the only way they can do that is to kill children, to destroy poor people who don't have nothing. The only way they can control the West Bank is to slaughter everybody and destroy everything. They can't find a better solution than that. But they have control over the American government, the UK government, the Arab nations around them, and that's the best they can come up with. You got people over here that ain't nowhere near there that are afraid to do anything that is against them. Won't even speak out against things that they would never allow each other to do. Because those people have control over them in such a way that controls their mind, their intentions, and believe have control over their future. What type of evil do you have to be corrupted by to actually think that what they are doing is sustainable based on how they're moving in this regard? You got to be cloaked by some evil, friend. There has to be a warped thing that's over your mind and your spirit that doesn't allow you to see clearly in order for you to effectively capitulate with that. Because all you got to do is put 2 and 2 together, see 4 with that. It ain't hard to tell. And that's what I'm telling y'all, man. It takes something greater than that for which we can see, because a lot of people are so caught up in their greed and the things that they fear that they ain't even actually doing math when it comes to this situation. People who are smart enough to read the book in 5 minutes can't see that these people are self-destructive and shouldn't be running the world. See that these people have all the control in the world but are afraid of children that can't harm them. See, these people have control over the land but are convincing you that they need to take control over the land. You already have it. You've been torturing people on this land for 75 years. You already got it. They can't even move from one street to the next without checking in with your people. And you trying to tell me they're your biggest threat? And you to convince the whole world that they're your biggest threat? Make it make sense. What type of sorcery do I have to be under to actually think these people are what they say they are? Chosen for what? You ain't chosen, you're just paranoid. And you don't live within the means that most of us do, which are, we ain't gonna do just any old thing just to get everything we want. That's the lines that you live outside of, and that's why you have control of so much, because you will kill children, because you will buy governments, because you will poison people's food, because you will do this, and this, for which you've made it impossible for us to even think makes any sense. It's the stuff you're willing to do that we're not willing to do. That makes it so that you control so much. It ain't because God gave you anything. It's because you decided to say, F God, F morality, I'm taking mine and yours too. And because of that very nature, you're confused. It's because of that evil from which you've engaged in for so long that you can't see clearly. Because it's a spiritual agreement that you get in line with when you behave that way. And as a result, that for which is the enemy will cut off the part of your brain that helps you see what it is I've been explaining for the last 33 minutes. And anybody who wants to get in bed with you ain't gonna be able to see it either. Because they're gonna be too busy warped by the same greed that your ass is. And many people are gonna be afraid to speak up because they warped by the same greed that their asses is. Not I. I've been blessed with something that most apparently have not been given. And that is the ability to see through this clearly. Since the beginning of what it is I've come to understand. Since even before that, when I was telling y'all about the people behind the curtain, it never made any sense. Never made any sense. And because I refuse to capitulate with that nonsense, I look like the person that doesn't have good sense. But the reality is, I didn't put together exactly what it is that's going on there. And I done showed you why you shouldn't be capitulating to that nonsense no more tonight. Because at the end of the day, it reflects poorly upon them, for which controls so much. So what? All eyes on them. As they do what? Show all of us that they don't have anything truly under control. Least of all, the understanding of their own power and what they can do with it. Because the first thing they want to do is attack poor children. With all the power in the damn world. and turn every good person on this planet against them as they continue to dance and sing and jump up and down like they've controlled anything in a responsible way. It's folly that they engage in. And they're supposed to be the most controlled, most under control people, most moral army. They kill children and be happy about it. They're the most moral, huh? What type of morality is that? This is opposites day? It's sorcery day? What is this? It's people don't believe in God, don't believe in good and evil, but can see this in plain sight and can't seem to understand that they're cloaked by something. Something is over their hearts and minds, ain't allowing them to see clear. Something's let them think that they chosen for something, when really all they've done is just be everything that God don't want us to be. And believe in the very things that God has told us not to do. It's things that they believe they need to be doing. It's ridiculous. As long as we continue to not see them, they ain't never gonna see themselves. As long as we continue to fear their power, they're gonna always be able to be in this cloaked space where that power is continuing to hurt children and hurt people all over the world. That's all they really good for. That's all that type of thinking is really ever going to do. It's hurt people, take from people, and not hold itself accountable. And then make fun of all of it that it does. Making others who watch it, who witness them do these things, have strong vitriol for them. Thus making it less safe for them in the world. Thus making it more necessary for them to continue to behave this way, or so they think. Because it's, after all, it's only paranoia that would otherwise make them feel like they need to do all this in the first damn place. It's warped. BDF 44. Thank y'all for watching.